Hi everyone, welcome to this demo of the OCI Compute Service. In this demo, we will quickly look at the various capabilities supported by the OCI Compute Service. So let's quickly jump to the console. As you have seen in the previous modules, we have we were running a few compute instances around a web server, around a Bastion host, a database, etc. in the previous module. So the first thing, as you recall from the virtual cloud network lecture, is a compute instance needs a VCN and a subnet in order to be instantiated. It needs a subnet where you would run the compute instance. So if you recall from the previous lecture, we were using this demo VCN, and within the demo VCN we had two subnets, subnet A and subnet B. If I click on subnet A, you can see it's a public subnet, and that's good enough. I'm going to use this to create a compute instance. So I click on instance, and then I click on the create instance here, right? It gives me a default name, and I'm going to call this as uh, my instance. And then right here I can change the image source, so I can see the various images which are supported: Ubuntu, CentOS, Oracle Linux, Windows Server, etc. There are also a bunch of Oracle apps images, so JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, and few, right, where you don't really have to do all the work. These images have been pre-provisioned, and you can use them. These are blank templates. Think about them as blank templates which you could use, for example, to create a JDE environment. And there are also partner images which our partners have published. So all the way from GitLab to Fortinet, etc., etc. Those images you could find here. And then there are things around custom images, etc., which we will discuss in subsequent lectures. So let me just cancel it. Oracle Linux 7 is fine. I'm in a multi-AD region, so I have multiple ADs listed here. If you are in a single AD region, you'll just have one AD listed here. I get a choice between virtual machines and bare metal. So if I click on bare metal and change the shapes we were talking about in the previous module, you can see here. So there's a standard 52 core shape, AMD shape, a dense IO shape, etc. I'm going to spin up a VM, and right here, if you can see, you can change the VM shapes. So that's possible as well. Now, as you recall, right here, it's the console is asking me for the service is asking me for a virtual cloud network. So I'm in the training compartment. I'm going to choose my VCN, and right here it says what kind of subnet I'm planning to use. I'm going to use a public subnet. So that's subnet A, which I choose here. And now it says do not assign a public IP or assign a public IP. I'll assign a public IP address. And there are a bunch of advanced scenarios here. I'm going to skip these. We'll talk about this later on. And right here is a public-private RSA key pair. I have to I have to paste the public file, the public part of my key. So how do I generate it? Because folks who are new to the cloud sometimes they kind of get stuck here. I'm using my Windows subsystem for Linux machine. If you're on a PC and you're using Git, or you're on a Mac, you would use similar commands, Git bash, but this is a Windows subsystem for Linux, so it makes life a little bit easier. I'm on a Windows 10 machine. So the easiest way to generate an RSA private public key pair is by running this SSA keygen command. I could have specified parameters like the algorithm I want to use. I could specify the key length. 2048 is the minimum, but I could go to 4096, all that. But the simplest way is to just run the command SSH dash keygen. As you can see here, it's saying that it wants to generate a public-private RSA key pair. It's asking for a location. The location is fine. Don't want to, you can change it if you want. And then it says it already exists. Should I overwrite? So yes, it's fine. And then it's asking for a passphrase. Passphrase is a second layer of protection. So if your keys gets compromised, someone would need the passphrase in order to use them. The downside is every time you use your key pair, you would also need to provide your passphrase, so you'll have to remember it. In this case, it's a demo, so I'm just going to skip it, and my keys are generated. If I go to my directory here, sorry, I can see my private and public keys, right? So id underscore rsa is my private key, and id underscore rsa dot pub is my public key. So let me just get the public portion of the key and just copy this one. And I need to provide this value right here in my SSH window, the public portion of my SSH keys, right? And then there are a bunch of advanced options here. We're just going to skip all this. We'll talk about these subsequently in other modules, right? And I'll click on create instance. Now, within a few seconds, my instance would be up and running. And as the instance comes up, it's a public instance. It has a public IP. And if you recall from the virtual cloud network demo and the modules, port 22 is open, so I can SSH into this instance. If those things were not true, you would have to go and open specific ports like port 22 in this case in order to do SSH. As the instance is coming up, let me just scroll down. You can see the progress here. You can also see things like matrix. If I click on that, metrics are still not available because it's coming up, but you can see the attached VNIC, and there you see the VNIC has been attached, and this is the public IP I get. So if the instance is up and running, looks like it's still provisioning, I can SSH into that. So we'll do that. There's also boot volume. We'll talk about boot volume in the next module. And there are some other capabilities which are there. So right now it says running. So let me just clear my screen. And if you recall, the user ID for Oracle Linux is OPC. Let me just make sure that I'm using the correct IP address. 138 seems like the correct IP address. And if I hit enter, it says, do you want to connect to this machine? Say yes. And right now you can see that I'm inside my instance, right? I'm SSH into my instance. So this is a quick demo of how you can spin up a virtual machine within few seconds, literally 15-20 seconds. I was able to bring it up. Now let me show you a couple of other things really quickly. So I also have a dedicated virtual machine host created. Now to create one, you could just come here, and with single click you could create a dedicated virtual um, machine host. Now on this host I can go ahead and create VMs now, right? This is where my host is dedicated to me, but I get a choice to create VMs. So if I click here, same experience as before. Default name is fine. Oracle Linux is fine. Virtual machine shapes. Now I could pick a bigger shape, right? I could uh, say I want to spin up, let's say, an 8-core machine or a 4-core machine. Let's say 8 core is fine. 8-core machine, select shape, and then right here, all the stuff is similar to what we had earlier. Demo VCN. I want to spin this up in subnet A, assign a public IP. Why not? And SSH keys, I believe I still have it copied. No, sorry, I don't. I removed it, so I'll have to go back and let me just copy my SSH, the public portion of my SSH key, provide it here, and then right here you can see this is my dedicated virtual host, right? And I can click create. And now what it would do is it would create this this virtual machine, the 8-core machine I just spun up onto my dedicated host, the host which is just dedicated to me. So this is the second flavor which you could use with the compute instance. The third one is of course the bare metal machine. Now let me just quickly go ahead here and create a bare metal machine. It takes literally a few minutes to come up, but I could still just show you the experience. So I come here, it's the same experience as a VM. I would just pick a bare metal machine, and right now it says gives me a choice of a 52 core standard machine, and that's fine. Rest everything is the same experience. I can just pick a demo VCN. I can pick the subnet A, assign a public IP. I have my SSH keys I just copied in the previous step, so I have it there, and right there I go and create my bare metal machine. Now this would take a couple of minutes, but in a couple of minutes you would see that my bare metal machine is up and running. So this was a quick demo where we showed creating a VM. We showed creating a dedicated virtual machine host, and then we created a VM on top of that. And then finally, we showed you how similar the experience is to create a bare metal machine. So hopefully, it gives you a good, quick idea of how the compute service works at a very high level. In the next few modules, we'll dive deeper into specific things around advanced networking, around choosing fault domains, around custom images, boot volumes, etc. Thank you for watching this demo. If you have time, please join the next module on the compute service. Thank you.